Our next generation portable is officially named PlayStation Vita.
Vita does indeed mean life, and what better month than October to bring life to something dead. Welcome to the debut of a new monthly series where I'll discuss PlayStation Vita news, games I've been playing, and upcoming releases over the next month. So with that, let's get to the news. Just open my mailbox there. Yep, nothing. Hopefully some more news next month. So with all that news out the way, I guess it's on to what I've been playing this month on the PlayStation Vita. First up is Proxy, a shoot 'em up or shmup, developed by Lilimo Games. Now if you aren't a fan of shmups, then this might be the one for you because it's very basic, whereas if you're a big fan of shmups or shoot 'em ups, then you might find this one a little on the easy side. The game kind of blends roguelike mechanics within the shoot 'em up genre. As you go through the levels, you'll collect money, which you can then use to upgrade your ship, and those upgrades will stay throughout. So you could in theory keep playing the same level over and over, earning money and upgrading everything to max level. So if you aren't very good at these type of games, then it should be no issue for you, as you can easily upgrade through any of the bosses that you might get stuck on. But as I said, the game isn't overly difficult anyway. It allows you to shoot in 3 different ways, but I really only used one, and that was a spread shot, as what the game basically allows is a standard focus shot, and you also can shoot from the side of your ship with a different button. But if you press those 2 buttons together, it'll give you the spread shot, which is what I used throughout the game. And that's because the side shot, there's no enemies that you really need to kill, because the point of the game is to either get to the end of the level or save astronauts in space. So there's no point killing everything, there's not really much of a need. So I was mainly just holding down the button for the spread shot constantly. What I did like actually is how it mixes up different kind of bosses, so each boss is unique. So you'll have your standard bosses that you just gotta shoot, whereas they'll throw in a boss here and there like something out of Space Invaders, where if it gets to the bottom of the screen before you can kill it, then it's game over. So yeah, that's Proxy. Like I said, it's not a bullet hell shmup, so if you're someone that's a hardcore shoot 'em up fan, then you'll probably find this a little too easy. Well, unless you want to get an easy platinum, of course. It only takes around 2 or 3 hours to get a platinum. But if you're new to the genre or just want to try it out, I think this is the perfect one, as it can be quite challenging at the beginning before you've upgraded, but once you get the hang of the level up system, you should have no issues, and you actually might find something you like. And there's even a physical version of this game which you can purchase from PlayAsia. I'll leave a link in the description. Next up is Super Frog HD. This is actually a bit of an old game on the Vita, I think, because it also came out on the PlayStation 3. And the game itself is just a HD remaster of an Amiga game that released back in the 90s by the same developers, Team 17, who are a UK based developer that's been around for decades now. And this game probably should have stayed in that era. It's an era of platforming that I like to call the Ubisoft era, where they looked at Super Mario Bros. And thought, these kids love collecting things in these platformers, mushrooms, and their bright idea was to throw even more stuff to collect. So you had bananas and all kinds of fruits and just nonsense stuff all over the screen, served no purpose other than being there to collect, and that's where Super Frog HD comes from. The actual controls aren't too bad, but it also suffers from the Sonic issue, where it wants you to go fast for a level, but it will have an enemy that stops you in your tracks that you can't react to quick enough. It can be quite unforgiving. These days we've kind of refined the platforming genre, but back then they had like sides of objects that you could get hurt on, even though you should be able to go right through it no problem. Very small little things here and there that let it down, that you can tell it's an old game. So it's not something I'd seek out, it's more of a play here and there if you're bored kind of game, but it's nothing to write home about. These last few games are all Halloween themed. This first one, I have no idea where I got this game from. It's in my downloads list. I don't remember purchasing it. So maybe it's cursed, I'm not sure, but I'm glad I got to play it. And that's Super Skull Smash Go 2 Turbo, which doesn't exactly imbue you with confidence with a name like that. It's developed by Tax Games, and it's a homage to I'd say 8-bit platforming. It reminds me a little of Super Mario Bros. 2. It's got the pickup mechanic, but the goal of what we'll call Super Skull Smash isn't to get from one side of the screen to the next. Instead, it's to collect skulls. It's a puzzle platformer. You pick up skulls from skeletons around the map, and you have to throw them into a locked shrine. I guess it's a sacrifice. It's a very challenging game, but it's really well designed. There's also an overworld map where you can unlock a hidden area here and there, and if you complete that level, which is another puzzle level, you can get an extra heart, which makes the game easier as you go along. As like I said, it gets very difficult. It's designed really well. The controls are perfect, and I had no idea about this game. I'm not sure why no one talks about it, because it's really good. I'd highly recommend it to anyone out there that likes platformers or puzzle games, as this one is one of the best ones on the Vita. And from a good game on a Vita to one not so good, and that's Night Cry. This was originally a Kickstarter game developed by Nude Maker, who made Clock Tower 1 and 2 back on the PlayStation 1. This game originally released on the PC in 2016, and it took all this time just to port it to the Vita, and whoever did port it did a terrible job. The game itself really is a homage to those original Clock Tower games, as it feels like a PlayStation 1 title, maybe early PlayStation 2 at most. The goal, like the Clock Tower games, is you don't confront the killer, you're constantly trying to avoid by hiding in cupboards and under beds or whatever to try and avoid being killed. The issue with the PlayStation Vita port, first, is the controls. Plainly, they're awful. You end up getting killed constantly just because it controls so terrible, and then to kick it off, the second problem is the load times. You can be waiting up to 3 or 4 minutes for the game to reload back to the menu so you can play it again, and so the two combined together make something that's near unplayable on the Vita, which is a real shame, as there's obviously something there. There's a nugget of a game that's quite good, but the controls and the performance on the Vita just lay it down, sadly. If you were really looking to play this game, I'd probably get it on the PC. It seems to play better on there, which is just a shame, as the Vita doesn't have a lot of great horror games, and this could have been one, but unfortunately the port let it down. So unless you're desperate, I wouldn't recommend picking this up. And the final game that I've been playing this month, in fact I'm still playing at the moment, is Spirit Hunter NG. This is a sort of sequel to Deathmark, which released last year, and Axis Games, who published the title, have now declared Deathmark and obviously NG part of the Spirit Hunter series. They're an odd mix of genres. It's a horror-themed visual novel game with dungeon crawling and point-and-click elements. If you've never played Deathmark, you don't need to play that in order to understand what's going on in Spirit Hunter NG. I will just call it NG. This sequel is a whole new story, and it adds a couple new mechanics while simplifying a few others. If you don't know Experience, the developers, they usually make hardcore dungeon crawlers like Demon Gaze and Operation Abyss. Thankfully, this is not a hardcore dungeon crawling RPG. The game is broken up into a few chapters. Each one is a ghost story that you investigate with a few companions. The goal is to gather items and clues that you can then use to battle against the ghost. You can either destroy or purify the spirit. The game can be quite creepy, and NG adds a mode where you can turn the creepiness down if you want. So if you're very susceptible to jump scares, you can turn that off if you want. I personally don't mind it. The stories themselves can be quite creepy, combined with the atmosphere and the artwork. It gives off a great vibe, and it's what drew me to Deathmark last year and made it one of my favourite games last year. So if you're a fan of point and click adventures and want something a bit more horror themed, then I'd definitely check out Spirit Hunter NG this Halloween, as it's the perfect game for the season. And that's all the games I've been playing this month, so let's take a look at what's coming out in November. It's pretty hard to find upcoming games for the PlayStation Vita, so if you're a developer and you've got a game coming out on the Vita, be sure to let me know. Or if you're a fan and know of a game that is coming out in the coming months on the PlayStation Vita, either message me or let me know in the comments and I'll try and add it in a future video. But here's what I do know. So first up, on November 11th comes Romancing Saga 3 from Square Enix. The celebrated RPG classic comes west for the first time. experience a brand new HD remaster, the legendary 1995 RPG masterpiece introducing optimized graphics, a new dungeon to explore, new scenarios and a new game function. This originally released on the Super Famicom and it's never come west until now, so if you've played the other Romancing Saga games, it's definitely one to look out for. I'm not sure of the price point yet. I assume like most Square Enix games it'll probably be near full price. Sadly I don't know of any physical release either, so most likely it's digital only. The next game that I know is coming out sometime in November is the simply titled football game from developer Cloak and Dagger and publisher Ratalaika Games. You are Tommy, a local high school football hero in the town of East Bend. It's game night for the Purchase County Turbines and your sweetheart is waiting in the bleachers. Join Tommy for a night you won't forget. This actually looks like a simple point and click adventure game. I'm not sure how much action it's got based on the trailer alone, as it seems very focused on story, but it's one of the only 2 games I know of releasing on the PlayStation Vita in November, so beggars can't be choosers. Along with those 2 digital games releasing in November, there's also 2 physical titles releasing from PlayAsia, and that's Proxy, which I recommended earlier, and Mercenary Kings, which is a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up game. I'll be sure to leave links to both of the physical releases in the description below, so you can pick them up before they get sold out. And that's all I know for November. Like I said, if you know a game releasing in November, be sure to let me know, or one in December, and I'll be sure to add it in the next video. And that's it for this month, and don't forget, Vita means life.